Okay, so today we're going to be doing our Chelsea headband. So you're going to start off with your slip knot on your hook. I'm just going to pull that. So now we're going to chain as many as we need for the size that we're making. So I'm going to make a toddler size today, so I'm going to be chaining 66. So to create our chains, we're just yarning over and pulling through that loop, yarning over and pulling through that loop. So that's got my 2 chains. So now I'm going to go 3, 4, 5. Just try and keep that chain straight. 6, 7, 8. And I'll come back once I've finished my 66 chains. Okay, so now I've got my 66 chains done. Now I'm going to be doing my first row into the back bumps. So that's when you turn it over, it's just those little bumps along the back of your yarn. So the front is very flat where you've got your V's, and the back all has a little bump. So starting in the 3rd chain from the hook, so 1, 2, 3, so that's there, you're going to put your hook through that back bump, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. So that makes your single crochet. So you're going to find the back bump again, yarn over and pull through that loop, yarn over and pull through both those loops. This just makes a nice, neater finish for the edge of your headband. So it's just a neater way to start your project. So you just find your back bump, pull your yarn through, yarn over and pull through those 2. So we're just going to continue that along our chains, finding our back bump, yarning over and pulling through our 2 loops. So we're going to finish that along our entire row of chains. And I'll come back when I'm at the end. Okay, so now we've single crocheted along the length of our chains, and we get to the end here. We're going to turn that over and chain 1. So now we're going to start making our texture for our pattern here. So in the first stitch, we're going to work, so you're going to put your hook into that first V, you're going to yarn over, pull through your loop and yarn over and pull through 2. So you're going to make a single crochet, a half double crochet and a double crochet. So now we're going to yarn over, put our hook through the same stitch and yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. Now we're going to do a double crochet in the same stitch. So we're going to yarn over, put our hook through that same stitch and yarn over, and now we're going to pull through 2 loops and then pull through 2 loops. Okay, so now we skip the next 2 stitches and we're going to repeat that into our 3rd stitch. So we're going to put our hook through that stitch and yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through our 2 loops for our single crochet. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through, put our hook through the same stitch, yarn over and pull through our loop. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through 3 loops for our half double crochet. Now we're going to do a double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to put our hook through the same stitch and pull up a loop. We're going to yarn over, we're going to pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through those last 2 loops. Skip the next 2 stitches, and in your 3rd stitch you're going to do a single crochet again, a half double crochet and then a double crochet, and this stitch is called the sedge stitch. So we're going to continue that along the length of our headband, so skipping 2, and in our 3rd stitch we're doing our little cluster of stitches. So it's a single crochet, a half double and a double crochet in every 3rd stitch. Okay, so now that we get to the end, we're just going to do a single crochet in that last stitch there. So just a single crochet in our last stitch and turn. So once you get to your end, you're going to turn and you're going to chain 1. And then in that first stitch, you're going to do your first cluster. So you're going to put your hook through there and you're going to do a single crochet, a half double and a double crochet. We're now going to skip the next 2 stitches, and you'll notice in our pattern every 3rd stitch there's like a bigger hole, and that's where we're going to be putting our clusters from now on. So we're skipping 2, and then in that bigger hole we're doing our next cluster. So it's a single, a half double and then a double, skipping 2 stitches. So skipping our first 2 V's, then in that bigger hole we're doing our cluster. So it's like that, and then we're just going to repeat that along the length of our headband. So this is where we're making the width of our headband, so we want to repeat this row 10 more times to make it wide enough. But if you want to make it less or wider, this is where you'd adjust that width now. So we're just doing our clusters along each for 10 rows, 10 more rows. Okay, so I will meet you back once I've completed my 10th row. Okay, so now I've got to the end of my last stitch pattern row. So because I'm doing it for a toddler, I've reduced my width a little bit as well. So I've just repeated the row 2 6 times for this one. Now our last row, we're going to turn and chain 1, and then we're just going to do single crochets across each stitch, and this just finishes off our edge. So you're just going to go and do a single crochet into each of the stitches across the length of our headband. So we're going to do single crochet into every single stitch. So we've got all the top of our clusters and we're just stitching into each one here, like that. Across the top, single crochet, across, single crochet. So we're just going right across the top so that we have the 2 borders. So we'll have a single crochet border on either side and then our pattern in the middle. So I will come back to you when I'm at the end of this row. Okay, so we are now at the end of our row. So we've got our headband with our 2 rows of single crochet either side and our sedge stitch pattern in the middle. So now we're just going to cut. We need leave a longish tail for sewing on this one. So we're going to cut off our yarn there. And then we're just going to pull that through to finish it off. So you just pull it through like you're doing a slip stitch to finish that off. And then we have our tail for sewing. So we're just going to get our yarn needle and get that threaded. Okay, so now this one, so we're going to fold our get our headband and we're going to fold it lengthways like that, and then we're just going to sandwich the ends together. So it doesn't matter in which order you sandwich them, it won't make any difference to the end, but you just want to make sure that the top of each edge is at the top there. Okay, so now you're going to get your needle and you're just going to go through the top of each of the rows. So you want to make sure you're getting a loop from at least each row as you go along that top edge there. So you just slip your needle under the stitch. Okay. Keep going along that short edge with your stitching, just backwards and forwards like that. Okay, we get to the end, we want to make sure that that is all done as well, like that, and then came off. I just usually do another one on the end just to really make sure that that is secure. Okay, so then you can just like that. Okay, so now I leave my needle on there because I may want to stitch down some bits when I'll show you. So we turn it the right way and then we pull it out. So that there makes your little twist in your headband. So sometimes I will pop a little holding stitch just at that front edge there. So I'll just do a little stitch there and that just will hold that flat there. And then I might go along to the other side. So with the other side, I'm going to use this when I'm weaving in my end to do that. So now I'm just going to weave in my ends. So just go under some stitches, just loop them through, and then back again. It doesn't really matter for this one because you won't see it anyway, just making sure you're only getting loops for your stitches from the top, from the side that you're working on, like that. And then we're going to go under like that. Okay, and then we're just going to cut that off. Okay, so then I'm just going to weave this end in, but I'm going to use it to secure that side as well. So I'm just going to run that thread through there, and then I'm just going to hold that flat there, and then just do a little stitch there. Okay, and then I'm just going to weave this in, and as you can see, I've left my tail a little bit short when I was doing my chains, so I'm just going to weave it through like that, and just making sure I grab onto it, and then just weave it through a little bit more where I can. Okay, so just once more I'm going to push it through again, just through that seam, I think, just to secure it. Okay, there we go. Pull that through. All right, now I'm just going to cut that end off, and there we go. That is our Chelsea headband all done. So just popping those little locking stitches on the edge, it just helps it to sit flatter, but you don't need to do them obviously, and that's that done. So yeah, because it's a toddler size, just reducing the width a little bit has made it just more size appropriate. Because you're using the sedge stitch, there is a little bit of give in it as well. So yeah, I think I forgot to mention that in this pattern I've used a 4.5mm hook, and I've used 8-ply cotton acrylic for this one, but you can of course change your yarn and change your hook sizes, just remembering it's going to change the size of your final product. So if you want to change that, there's some instructions and some tips in the pattern that you can use to make size adjustments. Okay, all right, well, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy your new headband.